Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I am playing some Battlefield 3, playing some Conquest on Sabalan Pipeline and Conquest on Operation Riverside. And today guys, it is question time part 29. Guys, this is my responses to your great questions. I have 42 awesome questions to try and get through today, ranging from how to get the best out of a computer science course, tips and tricks on how to get through that, to how the tyres are degrading and working in Formula 1 this season, reality. Any question, be it reality gaming, will be answered, honestly, and today that's what I'm going to be talking about. To briefly mention the two gameplays you're about to see, first of all you're going to see obviously this game here on Sabalan Pipeline. I actually played both of these games today. These were two back-to-back games, and the first one was pretty neat. On the grounds of this is a true demonstration of never give up. You never quite know what's going to happen. And the second gameplay is just me running around as a recon infantry, doing some proper PTFOing, and a few nice moments come about because of that. Anyway, I digress. With that said, let me just say how, if you have a question, how you can submit it. All you have to do is pop it down in the comment section below and I'll get to answering it next time. So, with that, let me get on to the first question this week. And it comes from Arsenal 2022. And they ask, if there is one track on the Formula 1 calendar I would like to remove, what would it be and why? And they say that theirs would be Korea, and I would 100% agree with them. Korea to me is... it's a nice idea, I think, is how I'd think of it. You know, it's an emerging market. You know, Asia is a growing place economically and all this kind of jazz. But the track is not good for racing. It is another track which is created, not born, as I say. It hasn't really lended itself to any interesting racing. It was designed around a city which they haven't built, and it literally is used for nothing apart from the Formula 1 season. I believe that there's a tale that when they first raced there, and I'm going to get the years wrong, but was it 2010? They went back in 2011 and stuff that teams have left in fridges was still there. It's just weirdness like that, which is kind of a bit of a put-off. So yeah, not particularly interesting racing going on there. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm just not very keen on it as a track. So yeah, Korea for me as well. Arsenal 2022. Move that aside for somewhere more interesting. Say, I don't know. Maybe Manukau, or perhaps going back to Argentina, South Africa, Russia. There are all sorts of places vying for places these days. In fact, I think I saw a report somewhere saying that Thailand want to get a race now as well. All going off out in Formula 1 track land. So yeah, Arsenal, first of all, thank you very much for the great question. Yeah, Korea for me as well. Next question comes from Techno3123, and they ask, what is the best gun in Battlefield 3? Well, I'll answer that with another question, to be honest with you, because it depends on your playstyle. So what is your playstyle? There isn't really a single statistically best gun. It really does depend how you play the game, how you approach a situation, and the role that you're playing. By definition, all the classes have different weapons and different abilities, and really the best way to, if you want to put people down, is to say play the assault kit. They've got the ability to not only give life back and maintain life via defibrillators and the med pack, but also to remove it very effectively with this complement of assault rifles and grenade launchers and all the rest. So yeah, look at your playstyle, look at what kind of action you tend to get yourself in, and then analyze it to the type of weapon. Now, one thing to be aware of is that Battlefield 3, its hit detection is not great, so you'll tend to find the fast firing weapons are used more often and are more effective. Because the hit detection doesn't pick up every single hit, the more hits you can put, or more rounds you can put down range, means it's more likely that something is going to be picked up and encountered as a hit. So you tend to see a lot of AEKs and FARMAS, well actually not so much the FARMAS, but your M16s, your AEKs, your F2000s, your very fast firing submachine guns. You tend to see those used a lot for that very reason. So yeah, analyze your play style, think about the kits in the game, and go from there, I think is the best way to answer that. So hopefully, Techno, that helps you out. Thank you very much for the question. Next question comes from Dylan H, and they ask, do I own a copy of FIFA 13, and if not, why? I actually do own a copy of FIFA 13. Now, I've admitted quite openly in previous videos, I am a complete football noob. I don't really follow the sport very much, but I do enjoy watching it from time to time and actually playing. football from time to time as well. And I did pick up FIFA 13. It was relatively cheap over Christmas, and I gotta say, I'm loving it. I've played, I don't know, 6 seasons now as like a created pro, and I went from Port Vale. I'm currently with Manchester United via Arnhem Vitesse. Excellent career ladder. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm terrible at FIFA, but I've had fun playing and getting there, so that's the way it goes. So yeah, I do own a copy of FIFA, and I enjoy playing it, I guess. So thank you, Dylan, for the question. Next question comes from, or next 2 questions I should say, comes from Lego Creed, and they asked, do I think that Battlefield 3 is now full of Colonel 100s because every lobby that they join on the PS3 has at least 6 Colonels level 100 using AEKs? Well, obviously as the game advances, people will hit the level cap faster, so yeah, it is more likely that you will see the top ranking soldiers more often, and for the reason I basically just explained, yeah, you will see a lot of AEKs and stuff all over the place. Again, the hit detection kind of lends itself to that. But Lego Creed's second question I think is really interesting, and they ask, do I think that the assault class in Battlefield 3 is overpowered? I certainly think it's too versatile, is how I'd answer it. I think that it would be better if instead of the health pack, which can obviously give you back health, if they had an ammo pack as well, and they gave the health kit back to the support as it is now. Basically go back to the Bad Company 2 classes for those 2 kits. The thing with the assault is it's effective at taking life, it's effective at giving it back, but when you can kind of compound those on your own individually, that is pretty unstoppable. When you get a medic train going, and a load of guys playing assault, you basically have a situation where you've got loads of guys just constantly reviving each other, and the enemy, the guys who are shooting at them as they're meant to as part of the game, they can't put everyone down. Eventually they will be outgunned, outnumbered, whatever the case may be, and that will be that. So yeah, it's a little too versatile, and I think either, removing the med kit, giving the defibs a cooldown, I don't know, would certainly bring things back into balance. Who knows, Battlefield 4 is around the corner this year, is the release date, and we'll see what DICE does next with the kits, and go from there. So Lego Creed, thank you very much for those 2 great questions. Next question comes from My Magazine 2, and they ask, did I pick media? No, I did not. I don't know quite what that's referencing, but if it's university degree, I did computer science, and if it's A-levels, I did economics, physics, and ICT. Oh yeah, all the fun stuff. And I also did mathematics AS, but never mind. That is for another story. I suck at maths as it happens, and physics is not my strong suit either. Never mind. Digression. Time for that's for another day. Magazine, thank you for that. Next question comes from Dylan H, and they ask, do I think that EA made rented servers partly because they wanted some financial benefit, money for the process? Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, EA is a company. They are in business to make money, and if you expect them to put out games, say, and not make a profit on them, in sort of a kind of dreamland, that's not how things work. There's got to be some sort of incentive and outcome for both parties to put something together. So in a video game producer's sake, that is producing a game and getting paid for it. Now the rented servers, I'm sure when perhaps the idea was initially floated, people went, let's do this rented server thing, and people can make their own rules and maps and do all sorts of cool stuff. And then probably someone went, hey, we could charge for this and make some money. Great, let's do that. And I'm sure that the eventuality is that is basically a conversation which happened at some point. I don't think it was completely due to money, but certainly I expect it had a large impact and effect. So yeah, they probably did, and that's to be expected. They're in business. I think that answers that. Dylan, thank you again for another great question there. Next 2 questions comes from Maverick SASR, and they ask, will I be playing more games on PC? And what are my thoughts on the user interface from Battlefield 4 or from Battlefield 3, I should say, to Battlefield 4? Well, first of all, I am playing actually more and more on PC week by week, and that's just because with the sim racing and everything, I'm on the PC. I play a bit of Counter-Strike strike, a little armor, whatever the case may be. And yeah, admittedly, my PS3 hasn't been used very much in the last few weeks. Unfortunately, I've been busy. What else can I say? And yeah, no doubt you will be seeing some more PC stuff from me in the near future once I get myself sorted out with what I can upload. So yeah, I think that really answers that. And the second question, what do I think about the user interface changes from Battlefield 3 to Battlefield 4? Well, you have to be pretty quick actually to notice them. In the 17-minute trailer that DICE obviously released of Battlefield 4, you see the UI for a good part of it. Basically, it's gone for a very sort of minimalist but grey kind of style, whereas Battlefield 3's UI is predominantly blue, and for instance, well, you can see that here in this kind of menu. Yeah, personally, I'm not one who kind of is looking for a killer UI, as long as it tells me the information I need to know and it's intuitive, I know what button to push to do this and whatever else. Yeah, that's all I'm really looking for. From what the single-player UI showed off, it tells me the information I need to know, but it's nothing to, sing and dance about. So, yeah, it's something different. It's interesting that they've decided to change it and how they've changed it. And, yeah, well, see if it actually gives, any tactical advantage or benefit because it's different. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, Maverick, thank you very much for those two questions there. Next question, or next couple of questions actually, comes from Trey Kuba. And that's, can I be the fourth member in your squad? When will my next Battlefield 3 livestream be? And what are my thoughts on the North Korean nuclear tests? And also, what was going on with my voice audio in the last few question times? Well, I'll answer the last one first. Yeah, I've tracked down, first of all, my apologies guys for the weird audio stuff, and hopefully you won't be hearing it again. I think I figured out what was causing it. Ironically, my computer decided to do some backups while I was recording the audio, and for whatever reason doing that caused the audio to be really choppy when it recorded. Very strange. Backup isn't happening now, in fact I've turned it off, so very strange that would cause that, but weirdness, so apologies again. Anyway, back to the other few questions. Can I be the fourth member in my squad? Well, I think you'll find that 7 has got 7 members, so I think that unfortunately a fourth member might be a bit of a stretch, but we will see. That kind of actually rolls into the next question though. When will the next Battlefield 3 livestream be? Well, I've got a few things to sort out. I've done one Battlefield 3 live stream from PS3, and that was a lot of fun. The only problem was I had no game audio, and yeah, I could only hear the Skype chat, but it was delayed by 2 seconds. So I've got to sort a few things out first for it to be, properly playable and all this kind of thing. But it will be as soon as I've got that sorted, basically. So that's to answer that. And what are my thoughts on the North Korean nuclear tests? And I hope you don't mind, but I'll try and expand this out a bit more into the whole North Korean situation, let's call it, which is going on right now. It's a tense time, and I think, to be fair, actually, the media is blowing things out of proportion quite a bit in terms of, the world's going to end, run to the nearest Vault-Tec vault and pray. The world is pretty restrained these days. North Korea knows that if it were to try and go to war, that they would be wiped off the face of the earth. They can't fight the world. They've got a 1 million man strong army, which, you don't want to trifle with, but they wouldn't stand an earthly, technology-wise and everything else. Now, them, researching, I guess, that's probably the wrong word, but implementing, testing nuclear-based weapons and missile systems is going to get the world's attention. And, again, this is where the media has a role in it. They've reported it, and suddenly everyone's all worried about it. I think the only real thing you need to be worried about is when the South Koreans start to take notice and start to alter their behaviour. Because obviously, they are North Korea's neighbours, and as far as I know, everything is business as usual in South Korea as of now. When they start to take notice, then you should probably, start to keep an eye out on the region. But otherwise, it's a case of, I don't know if it's a plea for attention or whatever else, but, the media's blowing it out of proportion. This kind of stuff happens from, if you will, a NATO or US or whatever perspective in terms of testing of weapons and all this stuff all the time. It's just it isn't reported. But, North Korea is an interesting country. It's had prior in terms of, trying to get attention and all this kind of stuff. And certainly, I personally don't want to see a war. You may laugh at me, but I'm actually a pacifist. I don't like physical, I won't call it brutality or action, but that kind of stuff. And what I'm worried about is if there were a war, North Korea would be wiped out. I think that's pretty much a given. what would be more worrying is how the land is carved up afterwards. You've got China, you've got Russia, you've got obviously South Korea and the Americans. Who's going to get the land? And the other thing you've obviously got to keep an eye on is the civilians who'll be caught in the middle of all this. They're just people trying to go about their lives, and they will no doubt be caught up and unfortunately possibly killed as a part of any action which may go on. So yeah, it's not a good situation. I certainly think that North Korea is behaving a little foolishly, and I really do hope that people come to their senses, and the situation doesn't get out of hand, I guess. So yeah, Trey Kuruba, thank you very much for those great questions there. Next question comes from Gasman2418, and they ask, given the current Formula 1 tyre situation, should Pirelli go back to the 2012 or even 2011 spec tyres to stop degradation issues? Personally, no. I mean, today is was the Chinese Grand Prix, and the sort of split between the soft and hard tyre, the prime, the option compound, I thought was quite interesting. You had two very distinct tyres which had obviously very distinct, first of all, performance and life length. Certainly, it kind of made the race predictable from a strategy standpoint that everyone would be doing their running on the prime tyre, the medium tyre, because it lasted longer. Whereas the option tyre, the soft tyre, just didn't last at all. It lasted for 6 laps, and then it started to ruin itself because of the degradation and everything else. Now, I think what Pirelli have been briefed with is to make the racing interesting, closer, etc. And certainly I think because of the strategies and everything else that the teams employed today, because of the tyre choices and all this kind of jazz, the racing was close, it was interesting. I mean, Sebastian Vettel's last few lap charge, for example. But certainly I think, the tyre degradation and the tyre gaps in general we've seen so far this year have been pretty extreme. And certainly perhaps going back to last year's tyre model might not help. It's a completely new construction of tyre this year, so it's basically swapping out the whole engineering of the tyre. It's all brand new, and perhaps after 3 races you may go, well, it could be better. But having said that, we've only had 3 races. We've got another, 16 odd yet. Let's give it a bit longer and see what happens, what Pirelli brings to the table, and then I think we should make a decision. So yeah, Gasman, thank you for that first question. Their second question is, have I played Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and if so, what's my favourite gun and attachments? Well, I have played Call of Duty Black Ops 2, and I'll be honest, for all of half an hour. I was given it at Christmas, and I kid you not, I played half an hour of it and got bored. I'm not joking. And I'm not saying this to be snobby or anything like that either. I just found it to be eerily repetitive. Now, I expected it to be different because it was in the future and everything else, but it really did to me just feel like a reskin Black Ops. And don't get me wrong, Black Ops, it had its pros, it had its cons. I personally was quite liked Black Ops, but I was disappointed, and I did get genuinely bored by it. Now, in terms of the weapons and everything I used, I was using the MP7. It was one of the first weapons I could get my hands on once I unlocked Creator Class. And basically, I was just looking around with the various optical attachments and things that you could get for it. And I think I put the extended magazine on there as well, I forget. But yes, I played half an hour and then stopped because, quite frankly, I did get bored of it. So yeah, not really much more to say than that. I was expecting it to be different, and it wasn't. I don't know really what else to say. There we go. Yes, man, thank you very much for those 2 questions there. Interesting questions, indeed. Next question comes from Bonkers Self, and they ask, what do I think of the gameplay from Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes? Well, as you guys may or may not know, I'm a massive Metal Gear Solid nerd, and when Mr. Kojima-san, he announced, obviously, first of all Ground Zeroes, and then the Phantom Pain, which wasn't really announced as a Metal Gear Solid title, but you could kind of guess by how they put the logo together. The kind of Metal Gear Solid nerd part of me has been going into overdrive, and I'm nothing but amazed by it. So we haven't really seen much gameplay, I guess you could say to this point. It's been mainly cinematics and setting the scene. But it looks really cool. First of all, visually it looks amazing. It's due to release on current gen consoles and PC, and certainly what we've seen so far is nothing short of amazing. Now admittedly I believe that's because it's been mainly showed off on PC, but if the console graphics can get anything close to that, that shows that the current gen consoles have plenty of grunt still left in them. The other interesting thing is where the story is going to go. So the Solid Snake story in Metal Gear Solid has kind of been answered, but Big Boss still has a lot of unknowns to him following the events of Peace Walker and, well, what took him to the events of Metal Gear. So It's going to bridge that gap. Obviously, Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain come together to make Metal Gear Solid 5, and I'm really looking forward to it, just to, again, start to fill in the gaps between Metal Gear Solid 3 and Metal Gear. It's interesting how perspectives can be changed, I guess, and it's going to be interesting to see how Big Boss is going to be portrayed, especially given that he supposedly becomes the evil, master evil henchman in all this, whereas all we've seen from the previous Metal Gear Solid games is him being a decent bloke. So I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, rock and roll, more gameplay and everything else. So Bonkers Self, thank you very much for that great question there. Next question comes from mdace14, and that's, what do I think of Counter-Strike Global Offensive and the game, the competitive game mode within it? Well, so I first of all really enjoy Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Once I got myself sorted out with a proper PC rig, that was what I went to go and play as kind of my go-to, let's try and get used to a keyboard and mouse kind of game, because, well, put frankly, it's harsh and unforgiving. You get it wrong, you're going to get shot pretty quickly. So with that, I learned kind of the ins and outs of roughly how to use a mouse and keyboard instead of a controller, and yeah, I've really enjoyed my time with it. I'm relatively decent with it, I can kill people relatively efficiently, I'm nowhere near as good as I would be, say, on playing it on a console, but yeah, it's a nice game, and the competitive game mode within it, which is your classic 5v5 terrorists, counter-terrorists, predominantly playing for a bomb disposal site. You also have hostages involved. Is a lot of fun. I've only played a couple rounds, admittedly, of the proper competitive mode. I tend to do casual competitive more than anything. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, a lot of tension, and when you get a bunch of mates together and you start communicating and calling out the spots and everything else, it's a lot of good fun. So yeah, I'm quite pro Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Unfortunately, it's never been released for the PS3 here in Europe, still, so I haven't been able to do that with my friends, but on PS3 anyway. So yeah, kind of a bit of a bummer there, but yeah, I enjoy it, and hopefully it will be out on PS3 in Europe soon. So yeah, mdace14, thank you very much for that question there. Next question comes from Remy1004, and they ask, how am I? Well, I'm very well, Remy. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty tired, and I've got a lot going on at work, but I'm having a great time, so thank you very much. How are you? I'll ask that back. How are you, sir? Thank you very much for your question, Remy. Next question comes from Le Soul, and they ask, what are my top 3 game developers, for example, Rockstar, etc.? Well, first of all, I'm going to say Criterion. They make the Burnout games, and more of late, the Burnout games, Need for Speed games. The reason I say that is, first of all, they make amazing games. You can't deny it. Their games are good fun, but also technically they've done a lot. Back in the PS2 days, they produced a game engine called Renderware, and that was running all sorts of things. And fair play to them for producing some pretty quality software there. I'd have to say, second of all, is Rockstar North, predominantly for their work for the GTA games. Predominantly for, first of all, taking on the social taboos, which is quite interesting for a video game developer, but also for technically pushing the barrier and doing stuff which hadn't been seen before. For example, if you had said to someone when, say, the PS2 was released, that there would be a game called GTA San Andreas, which would be a whole city-state, have 3 cities, NPCs and loads of gameplay and all this sort of stuff going on, they'd probably call you, well, that's really cool, but it's not really going to happen, is it? So yeah, Rockstar North for their pretty incredible work with obviously Grand Theft Auto, but I'd say probably my top game developer, and I'm putting this purely down to the technical innovation that they do, is Crytek. Now that might surprise you, because all Crytek really do is Crysis games, but technically what the work they do is pretty incredible, and as a technical person I respect that a lot. Although all you may be seeing is me running around here as a recon on a motorbike. To get this to work and draw it, well, admittedly 30 frames on the Peasant race, there's a lot of very complicated logic and stuff going on, and Crytek have got their engines, CryEngine, down to a T. It looks gorgeous, has lots of nice little features, and when they produce a game like Crysis 3, which I personally really enjoyed, fair dues to them. So Crytek is actually my most favourite developer based on what technical stuff that they do. And to be fair, people argue, well, the only reason Crytek make games is as a sort of showcase of what they can do with the engine. Yeah, that's true. They make good games, though. I enjoyed Crysis, so I will say no more than that. So thank you very much, LeSol, for that question there. Next question comes from the Alpha Stick, and they ask, have I ever played League of Legends or LoL, and if so, did I enjoy it? No, I never have actually played League of Legends. I've got friends who play it, and they rant and rave about how much they enjoy it, but I personally, as you see a bit of Dukes of Hazzard anti-air Jeep there, I personally have never played it, so I don't think I can really comment on it. Thank you for the question, though, the Alpha Stick. I may have to have a go at some point and see what I make of it. So, there we go. Thank you for that. Anyway, next question. Oh, excuse me. Comes from Dark Fur Scout and one, and they ask, first of all, what are the top 5 games I'm looking forward to in 2013? Well, first of all, one which has already come out, and that's BioShock Infinite. Quite a game. Really amazing story. And you know, I can't recommend it enough. I think there are a few flaws. For instance, I think the combat, you know, it's nearly there. It's just missing a little certain something. But an amazing story and amazing narrative, and just lots of very little kind of subtle things, which really does add to the whole picture. So BioShock was one of my titles. I've played it and it's lived up to the hype. So that's very cool. Next one is DayZ Standalone. Again, it's a kind of a, well, I wouldn't say it's Minecraft-esque in terms of how it's kind of got to popularity, but it's a really neat concept for a game. You know, I've played DayZ, really enjoyed it, apart from the hackers, boo. But DayZ Standalone seeks to go on, you know, and carry on what the mod started and make it better in terms of rewriting the infrastructure so hacking won't be so prevalent, going about, you know, diseases and clothes and all this kind of stuff, just adding even more detail to the experience. It's very interesting how DayZ can kind of expose your raw human instinct in terms of, you know, oh my word, 1 second I don't have a gun and there's someone trying to kill me, I'll beg for my life, but the second I get the advantage I'll quite happily hatchet them in the head twice. True story. I think I've mentioned this already. There's at one point I was in Electro on the school roof like a fool, and there's some gear. I was looting a guy, and he snuck up behind me, put the pistol in my head, and I went on the chat and said, "Dude, I've got nothing. Don't shoot me." Little to his knowledge did I have a hatchet in my tool belt. So he let me go. He started looting the body, and I got the hatchet out and hit him twice in the back of the head. Yeah, I really question what kind of a human being I was at that point. But anyway, DayZ, interesting that shows that side of you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Standalone for all the improvements and changes they're bringing in with that. On top of that, Battlefield 4, of course. I'm looking forward to that purely because, you know, I'm a fan of the Battlefield series and the environments and such it gives you. And I think I've talked about Battlefield 4 in the past, why I'm looking forward to it. So, well, I made a video on, as a matter of fact. So yeah, I'll leave that at that. Next up is Metal Gear Solid 5. It, as far as I know, is due for a 2013 release. So, again, for reasons I've already said, massive Metal Gear Solid nerd, where hey. And my top most looking forward to game is Grand Theft Auto 5. I've had a lot of fun in the Grand Theft Auto game, so I think there's a question coming up about GTA 4, so I won't allude anything as of yet, but GTA 5 looks nothing but awesome. The initial trailer they showed off is nothing but awesome, and the screenshots and just how they're building the game up looks really, really cool. They've decided to delay it once, which gave me great confidence because it meant that they weren't going for, you know, releasing at this time frame just to do it. They're going to give the game the time it needs, and you know, Rockstar, they're good guys. They make really awesome games, and I'm really looking forward to it for that. So yeah, that's the first question from Dark First Scout. Their second question is, what do I think of the Easter eggs found in all of the Battlefield 3 expansion packs? Well, I think it shows that DICE has got a sense of humour. You know, all the dinosaur stuff, all the previous Battlefield game references. You know, it's nice. It gives people something to look for when the DLC comes out, and it gives us something to all laugh about, I guess, as well. You know, go off and find and enjoy. So yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's the best way to put it. So Dark First Scout, thank you very much for those two questions, sir. Next question comes from CJ Cartman, and they ask, what platform will I be getting Battlefield 4 on? Great question. Because it hasn't been officially announced yet for next generation consoles, this is very much up in the air for me. If it is not coming to, say, Battlefield 4, if it's not coming to PlayStation 4, and say going exclusively to the next Xbox or whatever, and you know, other such silliness, I don't know, I certainly, you know, will be getting it on PC. But if it is coming out on PS4, I will be getting it there, and I might get it on PC as well, I don't know. Purely on the grounds of, you know, my friends and such are predominantly going to be getting PlayStation 4s, and I'm sure that they'll probably be getting Battlefield 4 as well. So yeah, that is the kind of scenario and answer if on PS4, if not, probably PC and not PS3. So yeah, I think that answered that. CJ Carmen, thank you very much for that. Dark Scout 1 asks another question. If I use a headset, well, if I do, what do I use? I do indeed use a headset, and I use the Astro A40 headset, I should say. It's an amazing piece of kit. I got it a few years ago. Mine isn't the most sort of up-to-date, newest model, and it is incredible. I got it at the time for sort of convenience, in terms of I was going back into university halls and I didn't want to disturb my neighbours. But my oh my, you appreciate game audio a lot more with that. It's just amazing what you can and can't hear, down to people pulling the bolt back on their rifle, round corners and stuff you just miss. So yeah, Astro A40 is highly recommended, guys. An amazing piece of kit. So Dog Scout, thank you again for another question there. Next question comes from Anthony Munoz Perez, and they ask, do I think that there'll be a dinosaur mode in Battlefield 4, and if so, would I play it? Well, I've kind of talked about dinosaur mode in the past. It's started as a running joke in the community, and DICE have kind of embraced it with dinosaur skeletons, whatever else. I wouldn't be so sure if there would be a dedicated dinosaur mode in Battlefield 4, but if there was, I definitely would play it. DICE have got a helicopter somehow flying upside down. I've seen that before. I've certainly seen DICE has got a sense of humour, first of all, that they've kind of embraced it, which is really, really cool to see. And having said that, I'm sure that if they did produce something, it'd be really good fun to play. So yeah, why would I not play it? I would be sceptical though if they were to play it, or to produce it. So yeah, to really answer the question, yeah, if it's there, I'll definitely play it. If it will be there, perhaps that's not quite the question. So Anthony, thank you very much for that question there. Next question comes from Vordays, and they ask, what do I think about Quentin Tarantino movies in general, and Pulp Fiction in particular? I'll be honest, and I think I've said this before, I'm not really a film person. I haven't actually seen many films, and as kind of a result of that, I haven't actually seen many Quentin Tarantino films. Certainly haven't seen Pulp Fiction, and let me put it like this, if I had seen a Quentin Tarantino film, I wouldn't be able to name it necessarily. I'm not really into cinema that much. So yeah, I can't really answer that. Sorry, 4 days. Thank you for the question. However, I may have to look some films up and have a watch. Thank you for the question, though. Next question comes from Miguel Calvano. I hope I've said that right. And they ask, can I talk about The Last of Us in the next question time? Sure. So, first of all, you might notice I didn't include it in my most sort of hyped games of this year. The reason is that, although it looks really cool, in terms of the brutality, the combat, the story, all this kind of stuff, I was like this with Uncharted. It hasn't really appeared on my radar. But having said that, I bought the original Uncharted after it came out a little while, and I absolutely fell in love with the series. So I will be getting it on release, and I'm hoping that it's just a case of it's not really been on my radar, but I'm really going to enjoy it irrespective. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks to be a really cool game, and the themes and what it's covering also look really interesting, so I'm looking forward to it, although admittedly not as much as the previous 5 games I've just talked about. So Miguel, thank you very much for that question there. Next question comes from Jacob Breyer, and they ask, when Formula 1 2013, the game, comes out, will myself, Tom and Mike do another 4-player season? That's certainly the plan. As long as the game doesn't start chucking stupidness and things which gets in the way of us actually enjoying it, I'm sure that we will do another season. The problem we had with 2012 is bugs, stupidness, hit detection, the list goes on. We're hoping 2013 is better, and we'll definitely, I expect, be doing a season, because we had a lot of fun doing Season 1 and Season 2, so yeah, I hope that should hopefully answer that. Jacob, thank you very much for the question there. Next question comes from Lancer J, and they ask that they're interested about programming and computer science, and that they have a story that they want to develop. What's the most critical thing they need to keep in mind as they begin? Well, first of all, Rome isn't built in a day, I guess. This kind of stuff is complex, and it's complex because it needs to be. The best example I can give, and I think I said this or as much last question time, is that computer science, it's all about computation in terms of how you'd go about doing something. And a game, you might go, okay, how would I go about making a game? And then you realise, well, where do you start? Do you start with how the player would move, how the weapons work, all this kind of stuff? And then you realise, hang on, that requires something else, and that requires something else. So start slowly and build from there. Now, in terms of building a game, I've done it a few times. It's not an easy thing to do. A video game is a very specialised piece of software. You know, for instance, you've got to keep 60 frames a second. You've got to do 3D graphics for one, which is its own little interesting side piece. There are lots of caveats and lots of technicalities to it. What I would say is, if it's kind of a story, for instance, you mentioned, which you really want to get down on paper and get going with, definitely start by writing it down, planning it out, and then if you really want to get it into production, if you know anyone who can code and produce something very basic and or kind of a proof of concept, do that and go from there. Actual implementation takes a very long time. These AAA titles like Battlefield, for instance, with teams of several hundred people, still take 2 years to get done. If you're a small group, it will take much longer up to this kind of visual quality and standard and everything else. So it's going to take a while, but start on the small stuff. Divide and conquer is basically the way I look at these things. Break the problem down into the smallest possible bit and go from there. That's the best piece of advice I think I can give. There will be problems, there will be challenges. And unfortunately, that's just the way that computer programming and computation understanding goes. But it's an enjoyable experience once you do it a few times, and then you can realise kind of the scope and potential of other things, doing things differently, and that kind of thing, which is pretty cool in its own right as well. Lancer J, hopefully that kind of answers your question a bit. It's not an easy thing to get into game development and to produce a story and everything else like that. But start small. There are plenty of books and things on the subject in particular. Go from there and then try and implement your vision, I guess. Thank you very much for the question there, Lancer J. Next question next two questions comes from Sneaky Dragon 22, and they ask, will computer science get me the skills required to go into game creation / software engineering? So computer science, as I just mentioned, is about algorithms, computation, how you go around doing something. Because games, software is exactly that, it definitely will help. Now, computer science, what it basically teaches you is the fundamentals. It literally teaches a little bit of everything to do with how basically computers work. There's a quote which I think, again, I mentioned last question time, that computer science has as much to do with computers as astronomy does to do with telescopes. It's just where you see the subject applied. And as a result, most of computer science is how things are implemented on computer, and that's just the way it is. So it certainly will definitely equip you for a software engineering kind of career. That's what I'm doing as my job right now. And as far as game stuff, you can certainly make games, etc. Thanks to computer science, or thanks to a computer science degree, I've done it. But so, say a specialised degree, for instance, you wouldn't become or study to become a builder to produce, say, mansions. You become you take a particular course in mansion building. It's kind of similar, I guess, kind of concept, but a terrible analogy. It definitely will help. But if you want to do, say, particularly game design, I would definitely say do a game design course with heavy fundamentals included in it. Why, what is computation, all this kind of stuff, if you can. Now, the second question is, would I like to see kind of a real-time racing game where you race at the same time of day and the same track as an actual professional? So say you're watching the Formula 1 race and you can actually drive an actual Formula 1 car. It's kind of like a ghost against them. You can sort of see them on track. I think that'd be really cool, actually. The problem is that games and simulators haven't got real-world physics and in-game physics one-to-one, and because of that, you wouldn't be able to perfectly make everything fair, I guess. So certainly it is something I'd like to see. If it's technically achievable, I'm sure it is, but it won't be for a while yet. So Sneaky Dragon, thank you very much for those two questions there. Now, unfortunately, I have a load more awesome questions to get through, but I'm bearing in mind find that I'm running out of time, so I'll try and get through these questions as quickly as possible. Blown Tire asks, what happened to Task Force 7 on Battle Log? Yeah, it kind of went dead, and that's kind of my fault. Basically, the idea behind that was to try and bring some of you guys, my great subscribers and whatnot, together to put some squads together and go out and have some fun, and hopefully, you know, link up with my squad of friends and go from there and have some fun. Didn't quite happen that way. We all were very busy and couldn't really organise much, so apologies for that. But kind of dead, and I doubt really that we'll be doing much with it, as predominantly I'm the only one who really plays Battlefield from time to time. Matt does as well, but yeah, you know, it's not the all four of us as it used to be, I guess. So yeah, not really cool there. So sorry about that, Blown Tire. Thank you for the question. Super Duper Guy 00 ask, Chuggy, yeah, Black Ops 2 or Halo 4, and who's my favourite presenter on Top Gear? I haven't played Halo 4, although I have played Black Ops 2, as I've kind of said, and certainly it hasn't really changed from previous games. So I probably have to say Black Ops 2, given that I know what it's like and I haven't played Halo 4. And who's my favourite Top Gear presenter? It's got to be James May, Captain Slow. You got to love a bit of the kind of the self sort of humiliating humour. I don't know. Yeah, thank you, Super Duper Guy, for the question there. And unfortunately, yeah, blast, I'm really out of time, so I'm going to have to end it there. Guys, as always, thank you so very much for your awesome questions. I really do love making these videos. Hopefully you've enjoyed my answers to your great questions. Again, if you have anything you would like me to answer, all you have to do is pop it down in the comment section below, and I'll get to answering it next time. And if you like this video and could leave a like or dislike, whatever you believe it deserves, that'd be fantastic. And if you want to see more videos from myself, you can always subscribe. Now guys, again, thank you so very much for watching. No Peace Walkers this week. I'm going to give it a little bit of a break just as myself and Tom get the footage together. We'll see you next time out on the battlefield.